What's the cheapest sector in the S&P 500? It's the energy sector. It trades at the lowest PE of any sector, just 7.4 times earnings. And it also generates more cash flow than any sector. Now, why is that? President Biden's signature Inflation Reduction Act passed last year on the promise that it was going to reduce all greenhouse gas emissions by about 30 to 40% by 2030. Large part of that's going to come from replacing regular cars with electric vehicles. I mean, California alone has mandated that every new car sold in that state by 2035 be electric. Now, I am absolutely not a climate change denier. I believe climate change is real. There's no doubt in my mind. And I also believe we have an obligation, literally an obligation, to pass down a healthier earth to our children and grandchildren than the one we inherited. And I will do whatever we can to do that, seriously. But there is a problem with the way this administration and most folks are approaching this very important goal. Even with billions of dollars being put into mining, there isn't enough lithium, for example, or other critical materials to meet these EV goals. Just to give you an idea of how big the problem is, I was talking to a geologist last month, and he said right now that if every new mine being dug right now began production and hit its target rate within 10 years, there still wouldn't be enough minerals to meet this demand. That's a problem. So we're not going to have enough minerals to meet these legally regulated demands by the states and the federal government for EV production. That's one half of the problem. The other half of the problem is the oil and gas companies, they're not drilling for new wells. They're thinking from their perspective, they're saying, look, why would we drill for new wells? We have no regulatory help. We don't even know if our product's going to be outlawed in 10 years or 15 years. So why on earth would we drill for new wells? In other words, we're going to have a massive demand increase for minerals to create electric vehicles, a massive demand increase that we're not going to be able to meet. The only way we're going to be able to meet the energy requirements of this country, frankly, are oil and gas for another at least 25 years. And, whether you think that's sad to say or not, it's not my business to judge whether that's sad to say or not. We're investors. Bottom line is the demand for oil and gas is going to be here a lot longer than most people think. And oil and gas companies aren't drilling for new wells. What does that tell you? Higher demand, same supply. That means prices are going to go higher. So what do you have here? You have a situation where the energy sector is the cheapest sector in the S&P 500. And you have a situation where demand for oil and gas is going to stay high and keep growing while supply stays the same or shrinks. That's a recipe for higher stock prices. This is the biggest story most folks are just not being told. And that's why I've been positioning our members in these stocks. In my view, they represent incredible bargains, and there are going to be even more of them in the future. For example, one position we hold is Consol Energy. Symbol is CEIX. Here's a company that's worth $2.4 billion. You could buy the entire company right now on the market if you had $2.4 billion. And it's producing $800 to $900 million a year in positive free cash flow. Just to put that in context, that's like buying a bond for $100,000 and making 37.5% or $37,500 in income every year. Prices like this are very rare. In my years of doing this, in my 30 years of doing this, I have rarely seen stocks this cheap. It's just unbelievable how out of favor this sector is. But if you're not interested in playing individual stocks, you can also gain exposure to this very, very cheap sector through like an ETF. A couple that I follow are the Energy Sector ETF, symbol XLE. That's a good option. Another one is the Spider S&P Oil and Gas ETF, symbol XOP. These are great ways to play a sector that, again, is trading at 7.4 times earnings and literally has more cash flow than any other per share than any other sector in the S&P 500. So you have a massively undervalued, unloved sector out there that savvy investors like Warren Buffett are pouring billions of dollars into. That's how cheap this sector is. Happy hunting.